Welcome to the Cantina Roundtable Podcast with your hosts, artist and meme maker extraordinaire Sam Raptor, Star Wars theorist and author of the ever-popular Earth in Star Wars YouTube series BooFire191, and last but not least, everyone's favorite Mandalorian historian, host of the YouTube channel Manda-LORE, Tad Larkin. Together, they sit down at the nearest cantina or tap caf and just talk about Star Wars. Old stuff, new stuff, weird stuff, and every stuff in between. The Cantina Roundtable Podcast.
Hello there. Welcome to the Cantina Roundtable. I am Sam Raptor.
And I'm Tad Larkin.
And I am BooFire191.
So,
Yeah.
gentlemen, what
Hello.
are we talking about today?
Well, from what I understand, we have two topics that we actually want to dig into. So, let's start with one that will probably tie into said topic. Something we've been, I'm not going to say teasing, but something we always intend to get to, but never do. And that is Alien Exodus, which is something you guys know a bit more about, so why don't you take the floor on this?
Okay. I don't recall if we began talking about this last one, but
We've kind of talked about it, but we've never gone very in-depth.
Right. Okay, I'll just do a brief summary at the just to start with. Basically, Alien Exodus was a canceled book that would have basically tied in all of George Lucas's like intellectual properties into one. So, and would like explain the origin of many things in the Star Wars universe. So basically, the reason that humans, a species that are apparently in a galaxy far, far away from the galaxy far, far away, it's because it was apparently it's a colony ship from the dystopian Earth, as shown in THX 1138, another of George Lucas's movies, and they go through a wormhole which sends them back in time and to a far-off galaxy.
Right. So, and there's a lot of time travel and other craziness involved as well.
Yeah.
Like, I read the wiki article on it, but I don't quite recall much about it. It's an interesting idea. How, like, we've touched on this before, but the idea of time travel in Star Wars is something that's been played with, to be sure, but it's never been, like, Back to the Future style stuff. It's always been, like, I'm not going to say consciousness, not shift, but it...
Yeah, and it's usually, like, very minor things. It's never been like, one of the major plot points to anything except, like, one novel.
Yeah, I mean, they appear, but it's like, stuff has never changed. People only see things that happened in the past, for the most part.
Yeah. Though, the thing about Alien X, like, okay, for starters, it's a very weird premise, and, like, I believe something that most people, or maybe not most, but many would, like, think is something that should just be left alone. But, like, to other people, myself included, I think it or something similar to it would have been a welcome addition to the Star Wars mythos.
Yeah, I don't think humanity's origins is like as mysterious as, say, Yoda's species.
Kermit the Frog.
So I wouldn't mind having that be explored a little bit, because reading like some of the source books, like the New Essential Chronology and the Essential Guide to Warfare, it basically just says humans came from somewhere and then they expanded into the core. That's about all it says.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing, is in Star Wars we know that they came from the planet of Coruscant or Gel.
Well,
and they weren't called.
That's the earliest place humans have been.
Well, yeah, like that. That's where we believe that they are from. But other than that, there's not a ton we know about.
Are you sure it's Coruscant is the origin? Because I thought the Tong were originally from Coruscant.
Well, from what I
Both.
understand, that's kind of where the feud between them came from. The Gel and the Tong inhabited the same planet. Who is from where is up for debate. But it's mostly implied, I believe, that yeah. Trying to think here, and I petered out.
And for people who don't know, you
get what I'm saying, though?
extremely ancient Star Wars history, basically, the Gel are ancient humans, and the Tong are a group of aliens whose culture would eventually become the Mandalorians of modern day.
Yeah, they would be kicked off their planet, and then later on come back and go, oh, hey. Or it would lead to the, we'll say, stressful relationship between them.
Aye.
to put it lightly.
Very lightly.
And this is kind of the heart, or not the heart, but it kind of ties into the conflict that we see in, what is it? Tales of the Jedi. Those Mandalorians, a lot of them are Tong. However, come the Mandalorian Wars, there's so few of them left because they kind of got their shit stomped during that war. They started to go off and get a bunch of other species involved. That eventually the Tong on the whole just kind of
became a
died
minority
out.
and then became extinct. Yeah.
But yeah. So that's just kind of a simple rundown of that. So, like, we know where humans more or less come from, but that's kind of the extent of it, to say the least. They come from or lived on Coruscant, and yeah.
Yeah, and
like, that's what we
Whether
do know.
they evolved there or not, we have no clue.
Yeah. Because the idea that they came from a wormhole from Earth, like a lot of discussion about that, like seems to be like, that's a crazy, stupid idea. What's that? But like, this is sci-fi. There are much more insane.
Well,
It's not even
concepts.
sci-fi.
No.
It's space
It's
fantasy.
Yes, it's space fantasy,
fantasy.
which means even crazier shit is going to happen.
Fair enough. Yeah, because unless I'm mistaken, like the definition of science fiction is where everything is theoretically possible to our current understanding, but space fantasy is not held by those limits.
This is a universe where there is sound in
Right.
space.
Well,
Yeah, and smoke.
I've heard that the explanation for that is just that the sounds are simulated inside starfighters or whatever to reach.
Could you imagine? Just why did you have to make all these sounds deafening? We wanted realism.
Well, Star Wars space battles
Like-
would be unbearably boring if it was just like just visual. Like, yeah, you got him, Luke. Cool. I didn't even hear the blaster. Great. Don't get cocky.
Great shot, kid. That was 1 million.
The Battle of Coruscant would have been a lot less epic without the sound.
Though that was in like high orbit, wasn't it? Was it out of atmosphere? Yeah, surely it was out of atmosphere because
Invisible Hand went down and
like
started
that
burning
one
up.
shot where the Arc 170 gets shot.
Yeah.
It just floats there. It doesn't fall down. So it is
right, I
out
mean,
of
the battle
orbit.
with above Coruscant is a bit different because it is kind of believed that it happened in atmosphere.
Not the entire.
Well, I guess it could
So-
have been on different layers.
Yeah.
Like some like straight up out in orbit, others in the mesosphere, others in the
Yeah. So, it's
Actually,
not completely insane for those to be on fire, but then when you get to, I guess, nah, the Battle of Endor and things like that, like, when you get to that, it gets a bit nuts. Battle of Yavin.
Also, for any of those starfighters to be maneuvering the way they do, they need, like, thrusters on every angle of the ship.
Repulsor lift.
Because that's the thing is, that is another weird thing, is why is it they made those things so aerodynamic when they don't have to be?
I thought repulsor lift worked on the principle...
really aerodynamic... I mean, a TIE fighter isn't aerodynamic at all,
no.
but...
Well, yes. Well, I'm talking about, like, X-Wings, ARC-170s, Headhunters...
I mean, they do also operate in atmosphere. Maybe
I thought
like,
for repulsor lift to work, you needed like something underneath it, like a planet, for example.
Right. And there's probably like some sort of explanation as to why this is okay and a thing, but again, if you kind of squint at it for too long, it doesn't work.
No.
Yeah.
Not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but, there are obvious problems with it. It's one of those things where people saw this problem and went, okay, what's a technobabbled nonsense explanation we can do to have this make sense? It's controlled by magical moon lasers. That is why the X-Wing can fly.
The Force.
Why not? Yeah.
Why not?
When in doubt, use the Force.
How did Darth Maul survive being chopped in half and thrown down a reactor shaft? The Force. There you go.
He just didn't want to die. That's not how that works. Yeah.
Speaking of Darth Maul, he is a Zabrak, but we've been conversing, and okay, so in Star Wars, humans, Zabrak, Twi'lek, those are all considered different species. But
right.
Here's the thing. In real life, the definition of a species is a group that can successfully produce fertile offspring. Twi'lek and humans produce offspring. Zabrak and humans produce offspring. What's up with that?
Yeah, I mean, we've touched on this idea before. So, the idea that the Twi'leks and humans, Zabrak, all of that, they are subspecies of the same thing. We do know that the Chiss are offshoots of humans that crash-landed on Scylla and adapted to their environment. However, the other races, the fact they can create fertile offspring, is a bit of a weird one. So, we've talked about that before. So instead of beating that dead horse, I think what we wanted to focus on was, what is it? The actual theory behind it. Like a theory that we've kind of come up with.
Yeah, I don't recall if we talked about that before.
Yes, we did. Last episode.
Okay.
I remember we talked about it at length.
Oh, right.
To the point where my throat got rather sore.
Yeah. So, okay. So, now that we've acknowledged that these aliens aren't really as alien as we think they are, okay, so there's a common ancestor somewhere, and in some cases we are the same species. But how did that happen? Why did a group of humans get horns and the ability to survive being chopped in half?
Yeah. So why is it... So Iridonians are said to be tougher and stronger than most beings. Or, tougher and stronger than humans. Twi'leks, their males are butt-ass ugly, while the females... less so. I'll leave that there.
So, the idea could be... What if one of the ancient species in the Star Wars universe, be it the Rakata or the Celestials or the Gree, I think. Like, what if they genetically manipulated humans for different purposes, such as the stronger Zabrak for slave labor, and yeah.
So the idea is that at some point they are in fact the same species. So you have the Twi'leks who they were made for a certain purpose by a certain race, whoever this may be. And then the, Zabrak were created to, what's the word? The Zabrak were created as, got him, as like soldiers or miners or other tough individuals. That is the main idea for what they are. They went off, did a thing, and they're created for a specific purpose. And this will explain their rough skin, their strength, their overall toughness. And then this will explain why the male Twi'leks are mostly butt-ass ugly, and the females are rather attractive looking and...
Then there's the Zeltron, too.
And have a penchant for being dancers. And then the Zeltron, the Arcanians, the Achani, a bunch of different races that all kind of stem from the same race. The idea is, or our theory, or whatever you want to call it, is that back in the day there was one race, and for some reason, some race came along and decided, we're going to take you and genetically modify you to fit our certain needs. So that was an idea. Maybe Rakatans did it, Rakatans, whatever. Maybe someone else did it. There really isn't any proof as to why this is a thing, but the fact that these races can mate with one another suggests that there might be something up. But then, as I said last time, this may just be an oversight, because when you think about it, people, when you have sex with another person, you can have a kid, and they in turn can have a kid if they have sex with another person. We don't really think about it in terms...
Whoa, this is news to me.
Right. What I'm saying is that, we don't quite think of... At least, I guess this is weird projection. Oh my god. But, you have these races, okay, and, I don't think about it much, because when people have kids, they can have kids, so on and so forth. But then you break it down, oh shit, in reality, sentient beings are just more advanced animals. And then you realize, well, if that's the case, then the rules of animals probably have to apply to humans. Things like that. It's, when you first look at it, it makes sense, but then you go, wait, no, it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's all just a matter of classification.
Here we are bringing hard science into our Star Wars.
Well, here's the thing, though. The Elder Scrolls, which I've been digging into lore-wise recently. Here's the thing. Here's why the other species... So, men and Mer are actually, like, the elves. So, you have the orcs, the wood elves, the high elves, and then the dark elves. Then you have Bretons, Redguards, Imperials, Nords, and then you even have the Khajiit and Argonians, the beast races. They can all mate with one another, because way back at the dawn of creation, they are all descended from this spiritual race, or these race of spirits, rather, called the Elmafe. Over time, they ended up creating mortal bodies. One thing led to another. They were either changed through their, adapting to the environment, or changed by a god, like Lorcan and humanity. But what proceeded to happen is they are from the same race. So when they have sex and interact, they can create an offspring who can go on to have children. There's an explanation there. But for Star Wars, we've got nothing. And it makes you scratch your head and go, why is this a thing?
Man, Elder Scrolls lore is weird.
Oh, that's a whole other rabbit hole. I've ended up falling down it over the past few days, so much so that at the time that we're doing this, I just got done recording a video, and the raw audio is about the Elder Scrolls. The raw audio is an hour and 10 minutes long,
Christ.
meaning I want to shoot myself. But yeah, so that's what.
Wow.
The Elder Scrolls lore is weird. Star Wars lore is weird, and they both kind of come from the same problem. Is it's all kind of disconnected and weird, and it takes some finagling for it all to work together. At least with Star Wars, you have massive gaps of time, so you can go, oh, something probably happened in between there. The Elder Scrolls, however, that's just something else. I'm not going to dig into that here. But yeah,
I see.
Star Wars lore is weird. I'm gonna just say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Oh
we
my
all
God.
know that here.
I mean, that's the thing. There isn't a whole lot of basis or backing behind this, this theory with the species. But, there's enough substance there for it to make some sort of sense. So you could,
I believe it.
It's never going to come into fact into one of the stories. It just won't. But if you wanted it for your headcanon, there you go.
Woot.
You're
which-
welcome, Internet.
Although, actually tying back into Alien Exodus, another ancient alien species that could have done that would be the Varlians, which I believe their concept is what became the Rakatans for KOTOR, but basically they were an ancient species who enslaved most of the species in the galaxy, and eventually, through some shenanigans by the main character of Alien Exodus, I think, they were mutated into what we now call Hutts.
Gotta love that. Real
That's,
quick.
well,
Yeah, I do find that interesting. But real quick, do you know how the Hutts actually gained their empire? Like,
War droids.
a friend or an individual told me this, and it blew my goddamn mind because of how silly it was. So, in the Essential Guide to Warfare, it's pointed out that the Hutts were able to create their empire not through galactic banking, not through the manipulation of lesser races, not through, a criminal enterprise, but the way they got their initial empire of Hutt space was through creating giant mech suits for the Hutts to operate.
wait, what?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me look through my copy of Essential Guide.
It's batshit. It is so goddamn crazy.
Okay,
And
I see an
I don't know
ancient
how to
Hutt
feel about
warrior
it.
with an axe, but mech suits, Jesus.
I don't know how to feel about it because I like the idea that the Hutts were able to create this empire through manipulation and all that because it's something different. But there's something about seeing a giant fat slug monster in a mech suit that I love the idea of. Yeah.
Back on subject, I was listening to the audiobook for Destiny's Way a couple days ago, and it was the scene where Luke is talking with Vergere. They had just gotten Jason back, and they were discussing things because Luke's really interested in Vergere because she's a Jedi from the old Jedi Order, while he's, the Grandmaster of the new Jedi Order. And they were talking about the Force and the Yuzon Vong, and I remember when they were making the Yuzon Vong killer virus. It was called Alpha something. I think it was Alpha Blue, something along those lines.
Alpha Blue Electric Boogaloo.
But one of the geneticists I can't remember if it was Verger or the geneticist, but they were like, "Oh, Jedi Yuzon Vong DNA is eerily similar to ours." So now, with all this talk of aliens coming from one spot,
Oh,
like
yeah.
the Yuzon Vong, I mean, if they're bipedal, they've got
A humanoid
they're
face.
humanoid. Their faces look like human skulls.
So now we know that
Um,
whatever that ancient alien race that genetically modified humans were, they were capable of intergalactic travel.
You know what? That actually extragalactic. I believe.
No.
It would be extra. It would be extragalactic
Yeah.
because intergalactic is inside
no,
the galaxy.
that would be intragalactic. Because it's like international. But
Yeah.
whatever.
You know what? That actually. So let's think about some sci-fi with that involve when okay.
Could I add?
Oh,
could I
hold
add
up,
a
hold
little
up.
bit more? I'm sorry.
Hold up.
Yep.
The Yuzon Vong religion, they were apparently cast out from, like they angered their gods and they were cast out. So, in like a broad sense, I don't know much about the Yuzon Vong religion, but from what I've been reading of the new Jedi Order novels, their gods got angry and then they cast them out, and even cast them out of the Force. They can't. If if you're familiar with any of the new Jedi Order novels, the reason why the Yuzon Vong were so threatening to the Jedi is because they exist outside of the Force, and the Jedi can't perceive them. And
Okay. Yeah.
Hold up.
Yeah.
Okay, I found
yeah,
it.
you know what I'm
The
getting?
Hutts have always
feel ya.
utilized a grab bag of technologies copied, borrowed, or stolen from others, and little is known about their own native technologies if they ever existed. Perhaps the best glimpse of the ancient Hutts comes from records kept by the Sakians, one of the few species of Hutt space to maintain their independence and win the Hutt's respect. Sakian chronicles tell of Hutt cavaliers clad in iron shells, maneuvering via clattering metal limbs, treads, or wheels. Perhaps ancient versions of the armored shell Hutts who still dwell on Circumtor.
Yeah.
Oh my god, hold on. Ancient Sakian tribute counts also record payments for the Sakians' assistance in building Hutt Planechanga, massive tubular railguns built to accelerate space rocks to planet-cracking velocities. Jeez.
That's nuts. Okay, I thought of something kind of batshit, and I want everyone to bear with me here. Because it's something I was going to lead into, then you kept talking, Delta, and I'm like, oh shit, this is even better. So, I'm going to propose something kind of stupid, but bear with me here.
Alright.
So, you guys know Warhammer 40k, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is gonna sound stupid. And my fans have been wanting me to tie in Star Wars and 40k together. Star Wars is a sequel to Warhammer 40k. Now, let me explain. So, you know the Vong's hatred of technology, correct?
Yep.
Their distrust of it, they, all that fun stuff?
Well,
Hello?
unless I'm mistaken, that's because of the Silentium Abominor War.
Well, yeah. My basic idea is, first off, those guys could be the Necrons, but in a weird roundabout way, in a lot of sci-fi with humanity, one of the routes that is often depicted is humanity creates robots and AI, and eventually they turn on them because either A, they're dicks, or B, we're dicks. In Warhammer, you had ancient humanity as they created the Men of Iron, and rebellion happened, and they did not get along. One thing led to another, and eventually humanity collapsed. The Emperor is like, you know what, I'm tired of this, I'm leading humanity. He then put together the Imperium. That's really long story short. with that said, and then 30K happens as humanity enters a new age of growth, but they refer to the age where they had the Men of Iron, where humanity had its peak technology, the dark age of technology. They actually start to dislike tech and the advancement of tech. Then you cut to 40K, and what they're trying to do is they're just trying to maintain what's already been built. They don't try to advance. They kind of have a general hatred and distrust of it. So, this is where I'm coming up with a bunch of different things at once. So, this idea that it's a sequel is, first off, you talk about the gods casting humanity out of the Force. Well, in Warhammer 40K, you have the Warp and the Chaos Gods, and also, just kind of on the whole, it's kind of believed, or some people believe, that the Emperor himself is a Chaos God. And essentially, by pulling together all their psychic energy, or energy that's pulled from, their emotions, and I'm really glossing over a lot, by channeling that, ancient humanity was able to create the God Emperor, who then fucked off, did his own thing, then came back later. Well, this idea is that things progress in 40K and things get really bad to the point where humanity either is cut off or shuts themselves off from the warp or their ability to affect the warp. But the trade-off is that they can no longer use their psychic powers and shit, or in this case, they can no longer use the Force. This progresses, and then the Necron, who are a bunch of spooky, scary skeleton robots, are going on a warpath, tearing people apart. This would kind of lead to their hatred of tech, and then you have people like the Tyranids, whose starships and crap are just larger, scarier Tyranids. So reverse engineering organic tech, I don't know, it's just all a bunch of weird stuff that, as I'm saying this out loud, it sounds crazy, and I need to put this together better. But
I see what you're saying, though. Like, maybe the humans reverse engineered this tech.
yeah,
And found out the secrets of growing their own organic starships.
And then
making their
pissed
own
off.
crab armor.
yeah,
Yeah.
And they just fucked off. The warp, the chaos gods, everything. And I like to imagine the God Emperor got up and went, "What are you guys doing? You fucked everything up," and then kicked a bunch of humans out of the Imperium. This led to them reverse engineering Tyranids, creating giant, spooky, scary Tyranids, adapting themselves, changing themselves, and then pissing off. It's really stupid, but
The only
it's just
the only piece of evidence to contradict this is that Star Wars is a long time ago, and 40K is 38,000 years from now.
yeah.
Wormholes, Alien Exodus, tie-in, boom, done.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that audience, that weird long, I'm not gonna say rant, but just, that's how my brain works. I think something, I say it out loud, and then I realize, oh, that may have been stupid. God damn it.
But
yeah,
But where I was eventually going with the Yuzhan Vong and the species architect theory we have going on is maybe they did something really wrong, and these people who created all these human-like species in the galaxy were just like, oh, well, you're too dangerous. We're going to put you in a whole nother galaxy. Like, screw you.
Bye.
yeah, it's kind of like, what is it? In Halo, you have the Forerunners, but then before that you have the Precursors, I think they're called.
Yep.
And they create the Flood to combat the Forerunners. But things get out of hand.
I haven't followed Halo lore until I haven't followed it since early 2000s. I didn't know there was a Forerunner race to the Forerunners.
Yeah,
It's
really weird.
but it's okay. I have some issues with the direction Halo has gone recently. Like, some of the stuff I love, other stuff is eh. But, like, okay, anyone reading the Forerunner trilogy of books, cover your ears, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Jump ahead like 5 seconds. The precursors basically become the Flood.
Right.
And it's...
You know, I've completely fallen off of Halo. Like, I just stopped caring. I just stopped giving a shit. Which is sad.
Well, I mean...
It had cool things going on.
I mean, okay, Halo 5 was
yeah.
a disappointment, but, like, all in all, like, there's a ton of really good stuff. Like, pretty much every recent book has been great.
Yeah, I think, oh, shit, what is his name? There's a YouTuber that I was... I think his name is, like, Dishonored Wolf, and he made a pretty goddamn good video on, about 343 Studios. Yeah, The Dishonored Wolf. He made a pretty goddamn good video about 343 Studios, and he goes on to say, and this is something I hope Star Wars doesn't do, because 343, with their stories, you know, they've kind of cocked this condescending attitude where it's like, oh, our stories are too deep, we'll dumb them down for the masses. Where in fact, it's something different entirely. Part of the problem with their games is as he explains in the video, is what they've been doing is they've been hiding a lot of extra details that should be in the game in the work, in these out of game sources like books and comics.
Like
where
I love
previously
expanded
before that,
universes, but if I didn't read like the Forerunner stuff prior to Halo 4, I wouldn't have understood anything. Like,
right. And
that's
you know,
issue.
it's like yeah, I mean, and with Star Wars, you know, I created a theory talking about Rey, how she's a wound in the Force. I like the theory, and I think if something like that was done, it would redeem the character in my eyes. Because right now I'm at the point, there's no explanation that would really satisfy me without it becoming standard McHero type crap. However, the reason why I actually kind of don't like that theory is because you need to have an understanding of Knights of the Old Republic 2, which you shouldn't need for the films, because the films need to stand up on their own as their own film, and it needs to make sense. However, outside material should then be thrown in to add, like, neat little details, you know? Like, one of the things that is kind of a step in the wrong direction is the novelization for Episode 7 had a line where it explains that Rey has, in her home, a Y-Wing simulator, and she practices it every night before, you know, it's like her main thing to pass the time. And through the simulator, she's become a pretty goddamn good pilot. If that was in the film, it would make sense why she was flying the Millennium Falcon so well. But it wasn't, leaving kind of a weird disconnect.
I see what you're getting at, but in the particular case of Wound in the Force stuff, like, if they just reintroduced the concept in The Last Jedi...
That's true.
Like, it could work, but...
Yeah. It's like, then, yeah, I tend to be flip-floppy about that. Sometimes I agree, yeah, it would be a bitch to explain. And sometimes I'm like, no, wouldn't it would be, you just need like 3 lines. But, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
You shouldn't need to reference expanded universe material for like a major plot point, or not even a plot, just like a major attribute about a character. Like, that would have been good info to know in the film. I mean, it's not like, oh, Anakin gets a scar after episode 2. Where did he get that scar? Well, if you read this comic, he got the scar. Oh, okay. That's not important, but that's a nice little facet of information to know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, you know, yeah, and then also, like, in with the original Clone Wars cartoon, it explains why Anakin has a different robotic hand. Shit like that. That's cool.
Yeah,
you know,
'cause, like,
they're just little tidbits that you don't need to know.
yeah, because as long as it's
But if you
exactly.
as it's not like super important stuff, because like the what's the name of that ship that that Anakin and Obi-Wan fought Dooku on? It doesn't matter to the movie, but like read one of the reference books. Oh, it's the Invisible Hand. What's the one that shot it down? Oh, that's the Guarlara. It's like just tie in stuff that's just expands the
Right.
universe.
And that's something that I think is what has made the Star Wars expanded universe so cool. Is everything kind of ties into one thing or another, but it isn't over the top. It can be kind of subtle. So Knights of the Old Republic ties into Tales of the Jedi because you hear references of Exar Kun and Ula Keldroma, and it's kind of hinted that their actions is what caused this radical change within the Jedi Order. This shift toward mostly what we know the Jedi Order now. As now. No attachment, no family, no things like that. You know, it's a response to this conflict. You know, things like that. It's been pretty good. And this is where I'm kind of worried about the direction of, at the very least, the a Star Wars story pieces. So, I am really not looking forward to the Han Solo movie because I don't want to see the Kessel Run. I don't want to see how he got the Millennium Falcon. I don't want to see any of that because it's not important. But then if you over-explain it and it becomes a major plot point instead of like an aside, it's going to ruin the movie because it'll come off as shameless, stupid fan service. And then also with like we kind of saw this already with Rogue One, where at the very end of the film, spoiler alert, I guess, they pass off the plans to Leia, who is on Tantive 4 while the ship is at the battle. Which, I think I've ranted and raved about this before, but that makes no goddamn sense. You know, why wouldn't Vader just find the ship and blow it the fuck up? It's a weird tie-in and a weird, like, Episode 3 had an issue with wrapping up the films with a nice bow, you know, showing the Death Star creation. Why'd you have to show that? Or, you know, showing where Luke and Leia went and all this stuff. Why did you do that? You didn't really have to. It made it feel a bit... What's the word? I'm not going to say contrived, but it made it feel hokey instead of something that's a part of the plot that helps build the world.
I don't know.
Same thing kind of held
true. I
true.
sort of disagree on in the particular case of Episode 3, because, like, everyone...
I guess Luke and Leia does make a bit of sense. Okay, no, better example. Explaining why Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru are literally, by blood, Luke's aunt and uncle. That I found to be a bit over the top.
Fair enough.
Showing that where Luke goes and where Leia goes, that's fine. Showing the Death Star in Episode 2 and Episode 3 was a bit much, because you didn't need it. They didn't add anything. It was just like, oh, this is here. Remember Episode 4? And that's the thing, is Rogue One also fell into that trap, with Leia physically being there and getting the plans during the battle. You didn't need it, but it's there because remember Episode 4? There are little things that tie into the universe that make the Star Wars expanded universe so cool. But when you do things like that, it's a bit over the top, because again, it's like someone going, hey, remember this? Where you don't need that.
I don't know. For me, it's a case by case.
I'm gonna have to disagree a little bit on the issue where with the with references to the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. I think that just kind of strengthens the saga a little bit more. Makes you believe that. I mean, because with all the CGI and like how the ships in the prequel trilogy look a bit more modern than the ships in the original trilogy, it's easy to think that am I watching two separate movies from two separate universes? You know? I think the subtle references to the original trilogy make it more like have it come together just a little bit more.
You see,
like, oh,
I
okay,
have no
we're still
problem
in
with,
Star Wars, you know?
Right. I have no problem with subtle references. But so in episode 2, like the Death Star plans being handed off, it wasn't even in the story up until that point. It was just, you know, you have the plot of episode 2 going along and then, oh hey, here are the plans. What? It came out of nowhere and it didn't add anything to the story. I have no problem if they're tied in well, but when they're just kind of thrown in there, for me it just becomes distracting. You know, there was something that happened in the prequels as a decent tie-in to previous events or upcoming events that I thought was handled well. Can't think of it right now. So, okay. So I guess as an example of something kind of cool, or how tie-ins work, is Jango Fett to Boba Fett. Jango Fett was pivotal to the story. You know, he's a bounty hunter, but then he also is the guy behind the clone army. He's the template. And then he kept a clone for himself because he wanted a son. And then his father gets his head cut off, leaving Boba to be resentful towards the Jedi. And then you cut towards episode 5, and he's willing to work with the Empire. You know, the people who killed off the Jedi. It worked well. It tied into the story, and it made the universe more connected. But then when you just kind of throw shit at the wall, I don't know. For me, it hurts it, if that makes sense.
I see where you're coming from. Like, for me, it's just a case-by-case basis, yeah. I think.
Oh, yeah. Like, I don't... There is a difference between, like, tying in and fan service. So, like, in Rogue One, you have that scene with those guys on the Mos Eisley Cantina. I forget their names.
and Cornelius Evazan.
Sure. I never knew their names. I'm not gonna lie, but
Walrus Face and...
You know, that was something where... What's up?
Or, as most people call them, the Weird Doctor and Walrus Face.
Yeah.
Walrus Face was his name on the old Hasbro
oh, that's right.
Star Wars Cantina set. He was labeled as Walrus Face. And there's actually, if you watch E.T., there's a little scene where the kid's playing with E.T. He's like, oh, and this one's Walrus Face, and this one's Hammerhead.
Also, yeah, real quick, that's also another good example of a decent tie-in, is the E.T.s. In E.T., you have E.T. going, ah, when he sees Yoda. And then, you know, you see the E.T.s in the, you know, in the Senate. That was a good subtle tie-in. If you blinked, you missed it, and it worked.
I believe
like,
some EU sources called them the Grebleeps, which is Spielberg backwards.
That's great. But yeah.
Even more evidence to confirm the common ancestry theory.
God damn.
Though the only issue with that is, okay, if E.T. and Star Wars are in the same universe,
my head's starting to melt. I know where you're going.
So, but in E.T., Star Wars is fiction. Therefore, is George Lucas a psychic, a prophet? I don't know.
No, here's what I think it is. When I was doing Earth and Star Wars, which is kind of the first thing that got my channel traction, I actually thought about including Star Wars into the universe, but I decided not to because that's a whole other fucking can of worms. However, I thought of this idea where, you know how, so me as like a creator and shit, I don't sleep very well. I actually have a ton of nightmares, and I have deja vu quite a bit. So if I can remember my dreams, I tend to wake up, write them down afterward, and then tie it in, possibly, to something I'm making. So with this in mind, we have established that you can see the future in Star Wars. Anakin sees the future through his dreams when he's sleeping, which led him to be who he is. So, the way I was going to work it in is George Lucas, more or less, through the Force, saw Star Wars and saw this idea, and he thought it was just an idea, to create a movie series for. But then, in fact, this was him seeing visions of a future or the past. If that makes sense. He was having Force visions, which he then capitalized on to create a movie series about what is actually going on in the galaxy.
If I may read a short story I wrote a while back on Reddit. Mitra Nuro-Odo, exiled syndic of the 8th ruling family of the Chiss Ascendancy, Grand Admiral of the Galactic Empire, in all his decades of studying art, had never seen anything like this. It's called a comic book. In stylized high galactic characters, the title was written as Star Wars, The Thrawn Trilogy. Emblazoned on the cover were the faces of 3 major figures of the rebellion the Empire he served had tried so hard to squash, along with 2 Lambda-class shuttles. He glanced at the human, flanked by stormtroopers who had brought him this comic. Over 1 million light-years from their home galaxy, yet humans resided on this Earth, speaking Basic and writing in the high galactic alphabet, albeit in different names. This was a most peculiar art form, even disregarding the content. Countless, if not most races, told stories through their artwork, but these were simply drawings with white spaces covered in words conveying what the drawings themselves did not. He did not find anything comic about it, but perhaps there was a difference in the basic dialect. He skimmed through to the end of the book, and paused when he saw himself, impaled by his own bodyguard, Rook. His crimson eyes betrayed none of the surprise to the others in the room. Were the denizens of this world not human after all, but psychic near-humans? Was this the work of the Force? He returned to the beginning of the book. Based on characters created by George Lucas. This George Lucas, this being, and these people were too much of a risk for his home, perhaps beyond even the far outsiders. In these situations, he usually preferred a more elegant approach, but this was too much. Only in dealing with the Kaleesh on Oban had he ever been forced to do this, and it brought him no pleasure. He calmly walked over to the Chimera's holoprojector. This is Grand Admiral Thrawn to the 7th Fleet. You may commence Base Delta Zero.
Oh man, fuck that. First off, I actually had to turn off my mic a few times because I was laughing. Just so, real quick, all I'm thinking about right now is Dragon Ball Z Abridged, the Bardock special, where it's the aliens going, "I can see the future." Just that's what I'm imagining. And here's the thing: what would have been hilarious is good story.
Thank you.
What would have been fucking hilarious is then if you saw the new Jedi Order books and went, "Oh, okay, maybe I will keep them alive." Shit. That's fucking good.
Or what about a short story where a Luke Skywalker existing in the new canon somehow gets like a comic or a novel of him in the old canon?
Whoa, I get to bang a really hot redhead.
Who tried to kill me a few times. God damn, and then he realizes, man, I would have been a badass. But now I'm on this island in the middle of nowhere.
With porgs.
I got old. Yeah. Oh god. That is just a fun idea to toy with. I think everyone has thought of it at one point as a Star Wars fan, going like, if Earth wasn't Star Wars, they were psychics who could see the future through the Force.
I guess several people, namely George Lucas, Timothy Zahn, and yeah.
And then whatever jackass created the story imagining this scenario. Because you now have just seen a different future. Oh, God. Like, that's another weird thing, too, is, people who see the future in Star Wars, are they ever really able to alter it? Or is it like a predestined thing?
I was listening.
Always
to
in motion,
Path
the
of
future is.
That's a good quote too. But I was listening to Path of Destruction today, actually, and
Good book.
there was a passage in there about like premonitions and whether like they could actually influence them to change the outcome. And I was thinking, like, so if they just did nothing, would, in like, instead of trying to make it so that these premonitions, like, let's take Anakin Skywalker, for example, say he didn't take Palpatine up on his offer to, like, teach him shit, and then, like, he actually turned him over. Do you think it would have turned out a bit differently, or do you think because the premonition is a set thing that's going to happen no matter what decisions you choose?
Right. It's kind of like the concept of fate in Greek mythology, where if a character sees their fate, that's part of them going towards said fate. It's going to happen no matter what. There is no changing it. So Anakin sees in the future his wife dying, kids, all that crazy shit that led him to the dark side. Hold on.
Eh?
Wow, everybody stopped talking. I'm sorry. My sister proceeded to come downstairs, break down the door, and I had to turn my mic off as she asked me, "Do you want food?" And I'm like, yeah. No, but the idea, though, is Star Wars, is it a limited thing? It is everything set in stone, because the only example that I can think of right now is that premonition that Anakin has, and it comes true through his actions.
Now I'm
It's one
trying
of
to
those
think.
things, because let's say this concept of Earth and Star Wars like this, where they can see the future, they can actively change the future, because now they're seeing multiple timelines, and that is scary. Just seeing every possible outcome. I don't know. That is something. Like, time travel and seeing the future in Star Wars is a fascinating thing to look into.
Indeed.
But, yeah. Very complex, crazy crap.
Oh yeah.
So, I've actually been meaning to do this as maybe a video, but fuck it. Let's do it here. So, let's okay, what would you guys okay. When I say the ages of Star Wars, I mean like the old, what would you consider like the ages of Star Wars? So you have like the Clone Wars, the Galactic Civil War.
It goes pre-Republic, Old Republic, Rise of the Empire, the Clone Wars, Dark Times, Rebellion,
No.
New Jedi Order,
Rise-
and Legacy.
Okay.
Rise of the Empire actually goes
Yes.
straight up to the Rebellion era. There's no Clone Wars era. That's part of the
yeah,
Rise of the Empire era.
Okay, then let me slightly alter that for the sake of this. Rise of the Empire, we're gonna divide that into two. You're going to have the Dark Age, or no?
Dark Times.
Ye-
Dark Times, yeah.
So we'll have the Dark Age, the Years of Peace, so the 1,000 Years of Peace, the Clone Wars, then Rebellion.
Okay.
Make sense? Okay, I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask this in two sets. Through the ages, who would you want to be your Jedi Master for that time, and why? So, pre-Republic... pre-Republic I don't think works.
Yeah.
But Old
'Cause
Republic
there's only the
going on.
Jedi, however you...
Yeah. and
Jedi.
real quick thing, I've read Dawn of the Jedi. It's a shame, because that series was going on while... Or, when the Star Wars got sold, so it got canceled abruptly.
Yeah.
The first two issues of it are not... Or the first two trades of it are not bad. That third one, you
Zesh-
can tell it was rushed.
Zesh was an interesting character,
Yeah.
if a bit edgy.
But yeah, so Old Republic through Legacy, who would you guys want as a Jedi teacher and why?
Old Republic, Revan.
Just for fun.
No.
Like different teachers, because fuck it. I always find this to be fun.
Do we have to choose one out of the entire history, or
No,
one
You
for
choose
each
one
era?
per age. Choose one per age.
Okay, Old Republic. Does Revan count?
I'm gonna say no to Revan.
Okay. In that
Jolie Bindo for Old Republic.
All right.
Actually, you know what? Nope.
So why
Nope.
would you choose Jolie Bindo?
Nope. I changed my mind. Bastila.
All right.
Same,
Why would
actually.
you choose Bastila?
Well,
She's just badass.
Wait. Was that bad ass or dat ass?
Oh,
Both.
I'll go both.
Yeah.
You're asking a Mando who is favorite, like, if he were a Jedi, who would he want to serve under? I'm gonna go with, like, the coolest character, because, you know,
All right.
Mandos are all about looking cool, being cool, and cool.
Oya manda nervosa.
So, shit, if that's the case, then maybe I forget his fucking name, but the guy... Oh, wait, he wouldn't count, really. That doesn't matter. So, Som Raptor, who would you choose?
For
who would
the
you
Old
want?
Republic,
And I'll include the Old Republic MMO into this.
difficult. Both Bastila and Satil Shan are very powerful, and well,
Yeah.
I'll be honest. The Old Republic is the era I'm least familiar with. Even though I've read all the Legacy comics, both the Legacy and Old Republic are the ones I'm least familiar with. So
Heresy.
I'll I'll either say Bastila or Satil Shan.
All right. So,
What
at least
about
for
you?
me, I think Ulic Keldroma would be a cool one. Because first off, when he was a Jedi Knight, he was a really goddamn good Jedi Knight. But also, I think the dynamic of, during the Great Sith War, or the Sith War with Exar Kun and Ulic Keldroma, that could be some fascinating bit of drama. Be a very cool action-packed adventure with that guy. You get to be involved in a bunch of events, and also maybe go toe-to-toe against your master.
Yeah.
You may or may not, I may or may not die in the process. Die like a hero, or, a chump. But I think for me, that'd be a cool one.
Yeah, that would prove interesting.
Or if, after the fact, if you survive the war, reconnecting with your master after the fact, I think that could be cool. So then, moving on to... So after the Old Republic would be the Dark Age. So this will include up to the Battle of Ruzan. And
What Jedi are there during the new Sith Wars?
that's a goddamn good point.
The only one I can think of
so
off
far
the top
from
of
what
my
I've
head
been-
is the guy Murtagh, who was like the first Jedi in aside from Revan and Mitra Surik, basically one of the very few Jedi to successfully forge an alliance with the Mandalorians.
Yeah.
His name was Murtagh. But what other... Oh no, there's those guys from the Bane trilogy. There are a couple of Jedi.
I mean, you have Lord Hoth.
He dies.
He's
So
like
you
the
probably
only-
wouldn't want to be under him.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Do you want to get caught in the thought bomb? That is the question for this era.
Let's make a caveat. You can avoid the thought bomb by being coincidentally away.
Could I just choose Bane? I know he's not a Jedi.
Okay,
but-
there's Lord Hoth.
Yeah,
There's Valenthin Farfalla. Funny name, but that's fun to say.
Farfalla.
That's fun to say. Farfalla. Valentin Farfalla.
If you
That is a
could be
goddamn
his
good name.
Jedi apprentice, you'll probably dress as flashy as he does.
Oh god.
Ah, shit. I'm thinking.
And you get to
I
survive
don't know her
Ruzhan.
name.
Good for you.
I don't know her name, but I'm thinking the main character from Star Wars Knight Errant
Oh,
could be a cool one.
Kara Holt, right?
Yeah. There was actually a comic series in the library of my high school. It was hardcover and everything. It was weird.
You know, I tried to get into Knight Errant, but I really couldn't. It's the one John Jackson Miller thing I couldn't get into.
Yeah.
The one of the
God, you're right. The Dark Age has like fuck all for anything.
I mean, that was a topic of our first
Yeah, it is.
video.
Jesus, like that's the thing. If I ever got picked up by Star Wars or someone gave me a chance, like, hey, write something, I would do something batshit in the dark times. So I guess we'll move on to those years of peace, which are also
Yoda.
really convoluted. There's not a lot there.
The Years of Peace, Yoda.
Qui-Gon.
Yeah. Yeah. So Yoda, like those are almost obvious. Yoda, because he's freaking Yoda, man.
Qui-Gon, because he's freaking Qui-Gon, man.
It's true.
Yeah. What about Yaddle? Yaddle? Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
The other Yoda race, whatever the hell that person's name was.
Yaddle.
Yeah.
Was any I think it was like a female Yoda, but
Yeah.
it just she disappeared.
No, in like she died in a comic, I think.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, yeah, I think like maybe no. I got one. During the Years of Peace, Count Dooku.
Ooh.
That'd be a cool master to have. Learning Makashi, being under one of the. Honestly, if Dooku didn't go all in with the dark side, but decided the Sith way of doing things was good, or if he was just a straight up separatist, he would have been a great guy to be under. But I'm thinking Dooku. That'd be pretty cool.
Because like pre-Sith Dooku, like even pre-Sith, he was among the Order's best, unless yeah.
Yeah, kind of a hard ass, but could be a cool teacher to have.
Yeah.
I couldn't be under Dooku, because then I'd have to go to Galadran with him.
That's very true. It'd be that would be the one thing that
Killed them
sucks.
all.
But then again, here's the thing. Let's say that you were a Mandalorian before you got picked up by the Jedi Order. The amount of drama and storytelling things
That would
involved
be
with that.
interesting.
Oh yeah.
Could you imagine being a Jedi Knight, clad in a mixture of Mandalorian armor and robes, going up against a true Mandalorian?
Ooh,
You know, you have your lightsaber, they have their blaster drawn, and there's just no one's attacking. There's just a silent pause in the air.
like, okay.
Like, and then in that moment, you as a person need to decide what side you are on.
Ooh.
That could be kind of cool.
Like, yeah, as much as like the concept of a Mandalorian Jedi / Mandalorian Sith says, like, it's such like a kind of like Mary Sue-ish concept. Like, it could be pulled off. What oh,
Like,
hold on,
I always
Boofire. I know you're not caught up with Rebels, but basically they introduce the
So, yeah, Tor Vizsla.
Yeah, Tor Vizsla is an entirely different character.
Tar. Goddamn, fuck those names. Tar and Tor. Eat my ass. God. All we need now is Tyr and Tur. And
Tar, Ter, Tyr, Tor, and Tur.
And yeah, but
Tor means
Here's
door in German.
Tor, ironically,
Tor
means
Vizsla.
justice in Mandoa. He is not a very just guy.
I don't know. I found the idea for the character to be cool, and the idea that, first off, if we saw a story with this character, it could be cool. The idea that he's been romanticized because this is a legend, it's a story. It's 100 or 1,000 years removed. Mm-hmm. That's something I find to be kind of cool. With that said, like I always imagine, people do self-inserts from time to time when they watch media. I thought of an idea for a Mandalorian character in the Clone Wars, and this at first it sounds kind of Mary Sue-ish, and that's not the intention. But the idea is during the Mandalorian Civil War, this character was like a child or an infant, but still has a working knowledge and memory of the true Mandalorians. This character got picked up, was raised by the Order, and is now Obi-Wan's apprentice during the war, and has a lot of interaction with... And the only thing that would make this character kind of stand out is the interaction between this character and Satine. You know, you see Satine, who kind of comes in and just goes, "My word is law. This is what a Mandalorian is." Kind of... She's despotically pacifist, which is a weird thing. But she forces her views upon others, and it's backfired in her face. Where the true Mandalorians were all about, like, don't be a jackass when doing your thing. I'm abridging that quite a lot.
The Super Commando Codex in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Look, Boofire, don't worry at all about a self-insert Mando character. Delta and I have built armor for our characters.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. If I ever created a... this is something where we do a Star Wars RPG. I always flirt with the idea, but I never go all in. But I always flirt with creating that character as in, like, during the Clone Wars, they're like a teenager and shit. But then during the Dark Times, they're doing what they can to unite the Mandalorian people. Because in the Star Wars Rebel book, or Age of Rebellion, there's one of these campaigns where you do, in fact, interact with the old Mandalorians, I believe they're called.
On Vlemoth
So basically, yeah. So it's Mandalorians who stick to kind of what...
The true
they're like an amalgamation of Death Watch and the true Mandalorians, but they don't have the savagery or the honor of both.
Yeah,
they're just concentrated with doing their own thing.
They're basically the Mandos from the Republic Commando books, which is...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the idea that I had, was, this character is doing what they can to unite the different clans, but then this character really doesn't have an understanding of Mandalorian culture completely. The character has to learn a bunch of shit. Yeah. But I'm getting out there with this.
No worries.
If anything, what I'm basically getting at is if I ever make Mandalorian armor, I'm fucking integrating a robe into that shit. But yeah. So, I guess then, Clone Wars. What would be your mentor
Bard
that
and
you would like?
All this talk about Mandalorians is making my rangefinder stiffen.
Let's see. Clone Wars Master.
So I'm thinking like if you ever wanted to be like a in universe like a Mandalorian, I think it'd be kind of badass if Rom Koda was your mentor. Because he joined the Order rather late. I believe he joined the Order when he was 18.
That sounds
while
familiar.
he was on a war-torn world that was enveloped in massive amounts of World War I style trench warfare. So he has a very warped sense of everything.
That sounds
also,
familiar.
if you stuck with Ram Koda, you'd survive Order 66. So.
That's very true. You stuck with
this
Ram
era,
Koda, you'd survive.
Oh!
With this era, like with the other...
What?
With the Dark Times era, it's all about surviving Order 66.
Wait, hold up.
Or
That's
surviving the
very true.
Thought Bomb.
Rom Koda's
here's the thing,
apprentice was Fallon Gray. What? Huh. Who knew?
Oh, from...
And he also had an
Elite
apprentice
Squadron.
X something, I think.
X2.
Yeah.
X2 was Fallon Gray's apprentice.
Oh shit.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I used to play that on PSP.
Yeah, that Battlefront 3 / PSP Battlefront thing. Like, that
Elite
story is
Squadron.
weird, but like, it's okay. It's stupid, but endearingly so.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it. And this was a time
No,
when...
but yeah.
I was pretty... This is a time when, like, this game came out like in the middle of TCW, and this is a time where I'm like, oh crap, all my favorite stories are going to shit.
Unless I'm mistaken.
But then like this game comes out, and I'm like, I'll give the campaign a try, and like, oh, it didn't turn out that bad.
Unless I'm mistaken, that was basically the story of the scrapped Free Radical Battlefront 3, which I still think is a crime that it was. Okay, no, a billion people have talked about this.
Yeah, we won't talk about that here. What's done is done, and what's coming is coming. We cannot change the future. Unless we blow up, I'm not advocating terrorism. I think for me personally, I think it'd be cool. So I mentioned I'm gonna list off 3 options here. It's a bit cheating, but the Clone Wars has just a massive amount of masters that you could do. But I'm thinking Ram Koda would be cool. The warped sense of everything, his unique teachings, and how he has a very practical gray Jedi stance. I can't pronounce her name quite well because I can't quite remember it. But the Dark Woman.
Oh,
Anya Kuro.
Anya Kuro, I think.
Yeah, she would be pretty cool. The mastery and different things of the Force.
Hanging out with Quinlan Voss would be cool, but his apprentice was already Ayla.
Yeah, and during the Clone Wars, he was, the whole like double, triple agent thing.
He's a bloody triple.
I think at one point he was like
lastly,
quintuple agent.
I think what would also kind of be cool is Asherad Het.
Oh
yeah.
That would be kind of cool, especially if you went off to Korriban with him.
Ooh.
Could you? That
He's
would
one
be
of
some
those
fascinating.
Jedis I often forget about.
I mean, he is one interesting character.
Like that's another great example of reincorporation of ideas. You have Asherad Het, this kind of side character Jedi in some of the Clone Wars novels, who comes back as the villain of Legacy. Like, what? Because I think it would be kind of cool because, let's say you both go to Korriban, and you as a person don't fall to the dark side, but you absorb all of those Sith teachings, and you have a foundation for Jedi teachings. So you have the Sith and Jedi teachings. You now know a hell of a lot more with the Force than most do. So if you're able to, keep yourself together, you could be kind of a cool motherfucker, is what I'm saying. And then also the drama and fights between Crate, if you decide to not fall to the dark side, could be dope as hell. But yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know who else could be interesting? Kakruk.
Who?
Oh yeah. Another one of those guys that comes back in the Legacy era.
Is he that one guy who dies but keeps coming back?
Yeah, the one that looks like a warthog.
Much, yeah.
Yeah.
He survived.
Like, I know there's one Jedi Master who has this weird knack for dying, but
That's him.
reappearing later, and I think he's like the Grand Master of the Jedi Order during Legacy.
Yeah, that's him.
I forget his goddamn name.
Kakruk.
I don't know names in Star Wars, damn it. I can't keep up with that.
Like, him and Shakti have died so many times, but not really, that it's...
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, man. Jesus Christ.
Shakti's death was non-canon, because that was in the unreleased footage from Episode 3.
Yeah, because...
So her death in Force Awakens...
her true
Unleashed.
Legends death was The Force Awakens. Her canon death,
Force
I
Unleashed.
believe, is in...
You said Force Awakens, it's Force Unleashed.
No, her canon one, I believe
Episode
she dies
3.
at the Jedi Temple.
Yeah, she has like... She has 2 deaths in the same goddamn movie. You have the Jedi Temple, and then you have the Invisible Hand.
Yeah.
There's no winning for that woman.
And unless I'm mistaken, in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, Anakin thinks he kills her. Though it's been a while since I read that.
But yeah.
Good book.
And
by
then
the
in the
way.
film.
Good book. Jeez.
Yeah, like there's a lot of weird contradictory shit in Star Wars, which is fine. It's whatever. Like, yeah. I think, okay. I thought of one other topic before we go, because it's slowly closing in on an hour and a half.
Alright.
And this is going to be a bit weird, but this kind of ties into, Bastila being, badass and dadass. And this kind of ties into a really weird conversation Psalm Raptor and I had about Evangelion before this started. I don't know what the right term would be, but let's say you're in the Star Wars universe,
waifu,
and
is what you're asking.
Yes, and we're gonna go through the ages again, all right? But it doesn't have to be just. God, I can't believe I'm doing this. And I encourage the comments to also do this, but through the ages.
Okay, comments. Who's your waifu?
I don't know what. Yes.
Oh my
Who is your waifu?
Oh god. Okay, Old Republic.
Through
Shea
every
Vizsla.
age. God damn it.
I'm not able to participate.
Old Republic, definitely
So-
Shea Vizsla.
All right, let's start with the Old Republic.
Shea Vizsla. / Manda-LORE the Avenger.
So that would be your Psalm Raptor? All right. Why do you say that, other than Mando?
Mando, Dadass.
Oh, God.
no, but she is a really cool character because I found it really weird when SWTOR first came out that she was heavily featured in that trailer when Malgus...
The trailer, but she wasn't there.
Yeah, when Malgus attacks the Jedi Temple, but she wasn't in the game at all. She only eventually appeared in Shadow of Revan. And then you only get her as a companion in Knights of the Eternal Throne?
Knights of the Fallen...
No, yeah.
Knights of a Fallen Empire, then Eternal Throne.
Yeah.
Yeah, that shit's confusing.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about you, Delta?
I am not at liberty to answer at the moment.
Why is that?
Because my real life waifu has walked through the door.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh God, I love how we're all laughing, and I think deep down we all feel a little bit awkward. But this is. I hope this is good shit. I hope this is entertaining.
What about you, Boofire?
I'd say, what's up?
What about you? Who is your Old Republic
God.
waifu?
I have a thing for Sith, and that is something that's going to keep popping up. So I'm gonna say if I wanted to do Knights of the Old Republic, it would be Visas Mar. She's a rather interesting and cool character, and the relationship between the male exile and her, I wish was fleshed out a bit more, but I found it to be cool. If I wanted to jump to the MMO, Lana Beniko is the shit, man.
Lana Beniko is really cool.
But then I think this ties, because I've seen a bunch of things, this kind of ties back to my days of watching Avatar The Last Airbender, but I thought Valen was pretty, she was nuts as hell, but
oh my god, Valen is Azula. How did I never figure it out?
She is worse than Azula, though. She's completely unhinged. At least Azula kept her composure
oh my god.
until the end. Yeah. So, with this in mind, let's move on to the Dark Age. And I'll throw in the Years of Peace, because they both are kind of the same thing.
Well, the new Sith...
I'm gonna say this straight up. Darth Zannah. Yeah. So long as she didn't fucking kill me. I think there's even a line in the books where it's one character goes, I think it's someone she actually trains but then gets killed. She isn't that bad looking for a Sith. I think that's actually a quote of her on the wiki. Yeah. What about you, Sam?
Oh, I mean, who do we have to choose from in the new Sith Wars?
It's a very
other
good
than
point.
Darth Zannah?
That's a very, very good point.
I mean,
I
her and
guess you have
Kara
Knight
Holt.
Errant.
Who else is there
Yeah.
to choose?
Really aren't any.
Uh,
Shit, man.
I don't know.
So I guess we'll skip.
Yeah.
I just wanted to shit. Like, that is very true. There's like two.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess you also have the Brotherhood of Darkness people.
Oh,
You have what's her name?
Githany.
Giffany? Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a picture. She's a moving picture. I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, but she'll just end up betraying you in the end.
Indeed.
That's
Just trying
very
to kill
true.
you all the time.
Do we move
That
on?
could get tiring.
Do we move
A
on
wee
to
bit.
Rise of the Empire?
Yeah. Move on to the Clone Wars and shit.
Ayla Secura?
I was gonna say, I swear to God, if any of you say Ahsoka, I'm leaving this podcast.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. My choice, this one's actually kind of based off of confusion. Not confusion, but first off, I enjoyed her personality until the end during the Clone Wars. But I have no goddamn idea how old she is in, the original canon or the original Legends, whatever, you know what I mean. But Bear Sophie, she's pretty neat.
Yeah, but before
know.
the Clone Wars, the TV show butchered her character, she was interesting. Like the whole
What's
Jedi
up?
healer thing.
The MedStar
Yeah.
series.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like the calm disposition, emotions in check, shit like that. I don't know, kind of like it. It's neat. Morellans, you got your classic sci-fi green girl.
Yeah.
That's not bad. I mean, you do have your standard Padme, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But that goes almost without saying in a weird way. Like
That
I have a feeling a
episode
lot of
two,
like
the white suit on Geonosis. Oh my. Oh boy.
yeah, oh, goddamn.
Wipe sweat from forehead.
Even the Plinkett reviews. Yeah. During the Plinkett reviews, it goes, something along the lines of talking about her midriff.
Oh no, the neck
No,
suit
no.
conveniently ripped off my shirt.
Yeah, and then
Wipe sweat from forehead.
and then and then in the review for episode 3, and then he goes, and then they dressed her up like a fucking Quaker. Just, love that. I highly encourage you down in the comments to participate. So, Age of Dark Times, Age of Rebellion,
Mara Jade.
the lead
Mara
up, the
Jade.
tie-in. Mara
Maris
Jade is
Brood.
yeah. Maris, I suppose Maris Brood counts.
Oh yeah, I guess.
I mean,
She's kind of
I wear glasses, so I want everyone to imagine, because I'm doing this when I say this. Maris Brood is quite horny.
God damn it.
I took my glasses
done.
off for that.
This episode is now done.
Yeah. I gotta say, before she got all cybernetic and cyborgy and angry, Lumaya is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Shira Bree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shit, there really isn't that many. Fuck, after this point, there really aren't that many characters. I mean, I guess the only ones of note come from Legacy. And the big two that stand out in my mind are Talon, which... unless... You know what, I'm not gonna go there. You have Darth Talon and Mara CFL. But, yeah, past that point, I'm kind of done.
Yeah.
I guess the
Jaina
episode
Solo?
really is over. What's up?
Jaina Solo? You skipped a whole era.
Well, Legacy. I mean, Ania Solo.
Wait,
Well,
Winter
we skipped the
Soldier.
new Jedi Order.
I guess I don't count that because the Legacy 2 comics kind of... Shit, I still need to read them.
we skipped
But
the new
I think
Jedi
they
Order.
were coming out. What's up?
Hello?
I mean, yeah, I did skip a. I don't care anymore.
Uh,
After that pun, I've kind of petered out.
I think that was a good point to end the
Alright.
episode.
It's very good. I want everyone to understand that my glasses are still off and I can't see a goddamn thing. So, I don't have to deal with my shame. But, yeah, just it can make it really awkward. Who is your husband, Fu? And then everyone turns off the video. Yeah. So I have no goddamn topics left.
well,
I just wanted us. I mostly did those for conversation starters, which I think worked. Maybe I don't know. I know I have to piss like a racehorse, and I need to stare at a mirror for a while and reflect upon my shame. But yeah.
all right. Well, this has been Somraptor.
And I'm Tad Larkin. You're watching it on the channel right now, probably. If you're
Just-
still watching after that pun.
Yeah, I swear to God, none of you fucks should edit out that pun. If you do, I'm gonna be very sad. I'm gonna just keep my audio by itself and upload it alone on my channel if that's the case. just, yeah. I've been Boofar191. I've been your pain in the ass cringe producer, and this has been the Cantina Roundtable. I'm gonna say this: if you have suggestions for podcast ideas, shoot a message shoot a private. Oh my God, I need to hiccup.
Just drop a comment.
Yeah, drop a comment or shoot me at, if you guys want to also get private messages. Drop a comment or leave a private message with me via YouTube. I'll take a look. I'll keep that in mind. Having topic discussions is a great topic discussions. I'm fucking tired. Let's just end this. I've been Boofar191. I'll see you guys next time. You guys have any closing thoughts?
I was gonna do a pun, but it's fine.
Do it. Do it.
I was gonna say, stay horny, everyone.